Hello, good evening. I am Annelies Broekman from CREAS, which is a research institute on terrestrial ecology. And I'm going to moderate and introduce to you the session of today on rural development, boost through research transfer, to the transfer of knowledge of research and excellence into rural development. So I welcome you to this session. And today with me together there is Giuseppe Provenzano from the Union of the Mediterranean Research and Innovation Division, and in collaboration presenting with Almotas Abadi, the Managing Director and Senior Regional Cooperation Expert. So we have double representation from the Union of the Mediterranean, even if Giuseppe is here physically with us in the session. And after, we also have Ali Rouma, with a Senior Project Officer at the Prima Foundation. And then Sihan Jedari from the Institut National de Recherche en Génie Rural, Eau et Forêt, which we have an acronym like IA en anglais. And she is the project coordinator of FASTER project. So welcome everybody to this session. It will take 1 hour and a half. We will start providing an overview of the FASTER project for your reference, and then open the floor to our colleagues in the round table. And when all the information is put on the table, then we will ask through the chat to participate in a rich debate on how to transfer research excellence to sustain rural development. Thank you so much. So I will start telling you that the FASTER project, FASTER is an acronym for Farmers' Adaptation and Sustainability in Tunisia through Excellence in Research. So the project aims to reinforce IANGREF Research Institute, leading research institute in Tunisia, by boosting its leadership and positioning as a research excellence center, and help to for the process of internationalization and its capacity to innovate, as well as scientific quality and productivity. On the other hand, the project wants to ensure that the transfer of all this knowledge generated in IANGREF on adaptation in land and water management will be transferred to the Tunisian agricultural sector. And we do that through the use of the farm advisory system already in place and promoted by the Ministry of Agriculture in Tunisia. So to introduce our consortium, who we are, so apart from IANGREF, the consortium is composed by Tunisian higher education umbrella institution, it's called IRESA, and the responsible agency for delivering farm advisory in Tunisia, called AVFA. On top of that, we have 2 European research institutes, CREAS, the institutes I am partnering with, and Lund University, as well as 2 companies that are providing technical support to the project and to its implementation. So we have Vision Communication and Europe for Business, also in our board. So you can see it's a highly diversified consortium, and working together on these main goals. So what did we do? What do we want to do to comply with all these ambitious goals? No? So for improving IANGREF's national and international positioning, FASTER promoted the increased scientific publications, engagement in international research proposals and consortia for international competitive funding like European projects, and as well as increased attendance to national or international events like the one we are doing now today. And also this is very good because we want to support IANGREF in exploring potential collaboration agreements with existing international networks and bilateral meetings with decision makers in Tunisia. So for improving this is already a whole program. But on top of that, we want to improve the research excellence of IANGREF researchers themselves. So not only as an institute, but also work with EANGREF staff to get familiar with these aspects of research excellence. Therefore, we promoted training programs with international lectures to boost capacitation in the field of adaptation in water, forest, and land management, as well as on cross-cutting issues needed to put into value the research done, such as writing peer-reviewed articles or competitive projects for researchers in an earlier career stage. Furthermore, mobility programs allow short-term visits of Tunisian researchers to the European Research Institutes of the FASTER Consortium, with the aim to promote access to PhD programs and specific joint research projects. So really putting hands-on all these needs. So further on, for enabling these innovative solutions developed in this research excellence framework, and to share the knowledge and best practices that are generated, and mainstreaming the results into local farmers and policymakers, FASTER created a living lab to provide support to the farm advisory system. Living labs actually are a tool for promoting open innovation, an approach designed to enhance cooperation between multiple actors, sharing the same stake, like in this case, rural development. So, such as researchers, public administration, companies, and users like farmers or other stakeholders engaged in the agricultural sector. FASTER Project Living Lab focuses on transferring knowledge on adaptation to climate change between researchers in the field of water, soil, and forest management, but together with practitioners engaged in the farm advisory system in Tunisia. Therefore, we have this highly multidisciplinary environment. We have a multi-actor platform participating in this living lab. And in order to be all on the same page and really ensure that all this diverse knowledge is understood and streamlined, we also provide a summer school programs to capacitate farm advisory staff and practitioners for taking up the information. And so be able, at their turn, to provide this tailored support to farmers on the impacts of climate change and opportunities for adaptation. So in order to guarantee the sustainability of the project, also after it ends, we are promoting an e-learning platform. So all the trainings and information and knowledge generated through the FASTER project, which is 3 years of intensive work, all this knowledge will be gathered on an online platform created to host all the courses and capacitation programs and to make them available for interested participants. And provided the situation of the pandemic of COVID, actually it was a wonderful element that helped us to deliver the programs and the Living Lab interactions in a virtual way, even during the implementation of the project actually. So we needed to adapt ourselves to changing conditions. So this was a very short presentation on FASTER. There are many interesting aspects, and we invite you to contact our project for further details. But we hope that we will offer some opportunities at the end to research institutes already in a high level of excellence, like EANGREF and Tunisian partners, to further develop their position in the international research environment and increase the number of successful innovative project proposals and establish a dynamic of mutual learning between practitioners from over the Mediterranean region from the agricultural sector on adaptation to climate change, to global change. So thank you very much. And this was a short introduction. Now I would like to pass on the word to Giuseppe Provenzano, representing and sharing with us information on the subject on the Union for the Mediterranean. Thank you so much.
Hello, Giuseppe. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, moderator, for this great introductory speech, which effectively ties very well in the topic of research and innovation, which is key for the development of our Mediterranean region in general, for the whole Mediterranean region, but also for rural areas in particular. Actually, our work at the Union for the Mediterranean focuses heavily on the subjects of research and innovation from one side and sustainable development as a horizontal topic to the other. So I prepared a small presentation, perfect, thank you very much, which will help me to present some of the points where I would like to raise your attention here today. So if you can go to the next slide, I would like to mention a topic which often is it's a bit overlooked in our region and in general when we develop new action for sustainable development, which is higher education and research as a tool for developing our region, for developing both urban and rural areas, and especially in our region where we experience a very young population, which translates to a very high number of university students in our region. We see that there are more than 30 million university students right now in the Euro-Mediterranean region. By this, at the Union for the Mediterranean, for Euro-Mediterranean region, we mean the 42 countries which come from Europe and the southern and eastern Mediterranean. As we see, we have here a huge potential for sustainable growth by using the brightest minds that we have available, our youth, which is the most educated generation ever in our history. At the same time, unfortunately, we have to see that we have very high rates of young people that are not in training, that are not working, and that are not creating enterprises, which is a huge loss. In some countries, it's even up to 32%, which is almost a third. We have also some of the highest level of unemployment rates in the region. So in some countries, even 25%. It's a quarter of graduates which are not contributing to the sustainable development of our economies. We have here a huge potential. Let's be honest. We have 40% as seen as the possible increase in enrollment rates in higher education institution, which means that if we bet on the educated people, on the researchers, we can contribute to unlock our common growth. At the same time, we see that a barrier to hiring is given by the mismatch existing by the training being offered in university and research centers and the requirement of the business sector, the private sector. 32% of the companies have underlined that there is a mismatch between what they need and what is offered from the training market. Next. On this, we see a huge contribution to what is the youth unemployment, which is one of the biggest challenges that we need to overcome together in our region. As you can see from this table, which is extracted from ILO data, when we see that there is a 5% of total unemployment in the world, in our region, the number are significantly higher. And even more worryingly, we see that youth unemployment tends to be slightly higher. And we can see also that the rates of youth female unemployment are higher than what we would like to see. This is, I guess, the backdrop of a significant increase in population in some areas. In the last 20 years, we've seen the doubling of our population in North Africa, which means that we have a youth bulge in the moment that we need to exploit in order to contribute to our growth. Of course, we are talking about systemic challenges. Education and innovation cannot be all of the solution, but it can contribute in a significant amount to be part of the solution. Next. This is why at the Union for the Mediterranean, since we try to foster dialogue between all the stakeholders from the south and the north of the Mediterranean on topics of sustainable development, we have been trying to develop a community of practice between the world of work, the labor market, the job market, the ministries of labor, the employers, and the world of training, the academia, so the universities, the research centers. We have organized a great meeting as a side event to a Ministerial of Labor of the Union for the Mediterranean, where we try to put together a representative of these two worlds, and we try to see what could have been a way forward, some new solutions in order to use academia for unlocking development. If you can go to the next slide. So these are some takeaway points where we will try to focus our action, where we would like to invite you to reflect more. So what could be some objectives for common work together? First of all, we are experiencing a world that is changing, skills are changing, and the needs for skills are going to be changing. This means that in 20 years, the skills that are going to be taught right now, the curricula are not going to be updated with a continuously changing world. We have seen it now with COVID. What was required 1 year ago, it's for working in our work environment is not what is needed now. We are seeing it because today we are meeting in a digital format. We have seen the explosion of this format as a way of reacting to changing scenarios. This is an opportunity for growth if we can take it and if we can use it in a proactive way. So we need to offer new competencies for transitioning into this changing economy. We need to focus on what are the needs of our territories. In this case, rural areas. What are the needs that we can foresee in our changing scenarios, in our shifting economies, and how can we be proactive into training our people for producing for this economy? This leads to the topic of improving the flows of communication, the information flows between academia and between the job markets. This requires mobilizing some platforms where we can exchange needed information. And at the same time, we need to transfer knowledge more fluidly. Some areas in the world are doing it very well. I'm thinking about North America. Some other areas of the world can profit from the lessons that already are existing. And finally, and this is a point for rural areas, we need to work more for exploiting the potential existing into the sustainable economy economies, which means blue economy, bioeconomy, agriculture. Later, we are going to see some example coming from Prima, a great partner of the Union for the Mediterranean. Next. So in order to follow up on what we've seen was a way forward, was a path forward, we have tried to launch with the German Development Cooperation, a new initiative in order to connect as much as possible academia and the job markets. We've been calling this Innovation Employability Nexus, which can be a tool for developing the Mediterranean. Next. We launched this year a consultatory process. So we created some steering committees, some questionnaires. We have done semi-structured interviews with all kinds of stakeholders, going from a supranational institution, the European Commission, our co-presidency, the OECD, but also universities and university networks, representatives of the private sector. And now we are preparing a short publication, which I'm going to present a bit later. And next year we are going to materialize some trainings where we will be invited, of course. Next. I would just like to point out to some food for thought coming from a questionnaire which we've been sharing among our partners, which I think will help us see some topics where we will need to work more together. Next. First of all, we are seeing that they've been indicating as the main targets for working higher education and research institutions, which are universities, which are research centers, but also, and this is more interesting, to work more directly with private enterprises and with the private sector. Whereas the third sector is seen as already engaging a lot with universities. So it means that we need to try to work both with the universities, but at the same time to create innovative approaches for the private sector. Next. Other stakeholders which have been mentioned as key for working together were the medias, but also the HR training recruiting agencies. And this year, especially hospitals. Before we have maybe this stakeholder was not seen as fundamental as we've seen this year, and so stakeholders have been mentioning it more and more in our meetings. But also with development, sustainable development agencies, think tanks, and funding agencies. Next. Now going to the teams, we have tried to split up the teams about employability, where there is more opportunity for work, and the teams of innovation. Going on teams connected to employability, we have seen that industrial internships, digital skills, and soft skills, but also working more on partnership, we'll see as something where there was much more work to be done. A mention needs to be done with entrepreneurship, which in some countries and in some areas is left as something which you are born with. We know that entrepreneurship is a topic that needs developed. There are some skills which need to be fostered, and where we see that new approaches needs to be taken in some areas. We know that there are some great best practices already in the field, but they are not yet done in a systematic way. Next. So we want to develop this new nexus on innovation entrepreneurship, and partners have been responding that one of the best way for doing it is through innovative research programs in partnership with industries. This requires, first of all, to see a new way of connecting the public sector, which is academia, which is often not equipped with the right tools to engage with the private sector, which is more dynamic, which can be more adapted to what is the job markets. At the same time, university tends to be more conservative. So we need sometimes to adapt laws, to adopt best practices, to involve them into, for instance, in the curricula decisions. Then we have the question of research funding, which needs to tap more in what is offered by the private sector. Often researchers only look at public opportunities. And then there is a tool which is working more on incubators and accelerators and startup support. Again, we have great examples even in the Mediterranean. I'm thinking about Lebanon, I'm thinking about Tunisia, which has enacted new laws. And then the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the national policies need to be adapted. Next. Other frameworks include the qualification frameworks. This is something which is not perhaps evident when we talk about Europe, because we have already developed a framework for recognizing the qualifications of somebody from Spain that can go and work in, for instance, in Italy, or they can go to Germany. This is sometimes not the case outside of Europe. So working more on the qualification frameworks could be a great way for increasing the movement of the minds and contribute to a brain circulation. Then, of course, working more on social innovation and knowledge transfer, it could be a great way for creating new partnership. Next. So finally, all these ideas have, in a way, fed the preparation of a handbook that we are working on right now. So we are preparing this short handbook. We are talking about 120 pages, where we wanted to highlight, first of all, best practices that already exist in the region. This is a region where there is a great work for supporting the development in our areas, where there are universities which are very active, research centers which are working with the private sector, but also institutions which are engaging in innovative ways. We are not starting from zero. There is a great community to feed on, and we are detailing some initiatives, some ideas, which can be, first of all, joined, a second, replicated. This has been the result of 1 year of consultation with a lot of partners, and we are going to present this new publication digitally, of course, on the 2nd of December. If you go to the next slide, please. This is just a sneak peek for some of the topics that are going to be mentioned. We're going to talk about skills, we're going to talk about teaching, learning. We are doing some specific focus on collaborative doctorates, which is industrial doctorates, and on partnership for innovation. We're talking about mobility in our region, which is a key topic, career services, internships, and much more. So next. If you're interested, of course, you're all invited to reach us out. It's going to be on our website very soon for registering, and we hope that you can profit from this new contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. Very, very interesting. It looks like a lot of opportunity. Let's pass the word to Ali now. And I hope that after the presentations, there will be questions and proposals to feed in to all these presentations. So I introduce to you Ali Rouma. He is a senior project officer at the Prima Foundation. Thank you so much, Ali, to be with us today.
Thank you so much. Good evening, but because not good afternoon, because we are at 6 o'clock. Let me first thank Giuseppe for the presentation. It's very important. I think it's very interesting, and I think we have something overlapping between my presentation and your presentation, and we will have a good discussion, I guess. I would like also to thank Ramon Villa from the Vision for the invitation, and I think it is a pleasure to attend this panel, because I remember that I attended the first kickoff meeting of the FASTER project with all the member of the project, and it's a pleasure to see that we are closer also to this important project. What I will present to you is not linked maybe to Prima, because we are starting the program and we are launching a lot of calls and we are starting the projects, but it's the result of my experience, maybe 20 years of experience as a researcher and as manager. So I will present shortly what I would like to let you know this afternoon. Please, the first. Yes, I select this topic, the role of agriculture research and innovation in rural transformation, and I will focus on the NINA region. And I think it's very important because we have a lot of experience, we have a lot of research in the region, and I would like to focus on the region because we are targeting a lot of challenges in the region. Next, please. In this presentation, I will start by look to the rural transformation, because right now we are dealing with the rural development. No, before. Just saying the first one, just to so the rural transformation, and then after the rural transformation, I will speak about the research and innovation models, because the research transformation is linked also to the research models in the region. We have some good practices with some existing models, and I propose some orientation for the future. Next, please. The rural transformation, I think, is very important, and IFAD and FAO suggest that inclusive rural transformation is a critical factor for the reduction of poverty and food insecurity, as well as for stimulating overall growth of the economy. And as you may know, that rural transformation is a process in which raising agriculture productivity, increasing marketable surpluses, expanded off-farm employment opportunities, and better access to the services and infrastructure. And the agricultural transformation is a part of a larger structural transformation of the economy in the process of the development. And that involves a shrinking of the role played by agriculture in the economy. So the agricultural transformation is a part of the wider rural transformation. So here I would like to share with you some indicators, and I think you may know the recent report of FAO, which is very important. I would like to give some indicators, and I will start for the first one, some indicators on the hunger, food and insecurity and in malnutrition in the region. Next, please. So here indicator, there's a lot of indicator, but I select some indicator of hunger, food insecurity and malnutrition behind SDGs. And here we are linked to the SDGs 2 and we target the 2.1 and 2.2, the 2 target for the MENA region through the lens of the rural transformation. As you can see from this table, this table shows 2 of 3 main measures of hunger and food insecurity under the SDGs 2.1. So in this table, rural transformation seems to matter as much for severe food insecurity as conflict. This can be seen by noting the similar under nourishment and food security gaps between countries with high and low levels of transformation and those with and without conflicts. Maybe you can ask here the relationship between the rural transformation and the hunger and food security. Of course, here the rural transformation is a mix of agriculture commercialization, the inclusive development of the non-farm rural sector, and also the development of rural services. So altogether, the three aspects are reflected in the index of rural transformation, which incorporates measures of agricultural labor's productivity, rural income poverty, and an index of rural deprivation. So finally, as you can see here in this table indicates that it is the Mashraq counties that are afflicted most severely with the high levels of hunger and food insecurity. This may be due to the high proportion of conflicts country there and the lower level of rural transformation in this sub-region. Almost 4 of the 5 conflict countries are in the Mashraq, and the average level of rural transformation in the Maghreb is 30% higher than in the Mashraq. Next, please. Next slide. Let's see the second indicator, and I select here the food self-sufficiency ratio in the MENA region. And as you can see in the slide, MENA countries are highly dependent on imports to meet their consumption needs, particularly for cereals, sugars, and sweeteners and vegetable oils. And I think the data here mentioned clearly, showed clearly this issue. So let us say that on average, the MENA region imports around the half. It's for 54 exactly percent of its cereal needs, 63% of sugar and sweeteners, and 75% of vegetable oils, which is very important. Next, please. The third one, maybe this is the overlapping with my friend from the UFM, the unemployment. And I think this is, I take it from the World Bank since two years ago. As you can see in this table, the MENA countries show unemployment rates that are persistently higher than in other regions around the world, mainly for young workers aged between 15 and 24, as already reported by Giuseppe, and also but for not only for the young workers but also for women. This problem is accurate in the middle income as well in some high income countries for the region, and has worsened in some of them in the past 2 decades. Female participation rates in MENA countries are the lowest in the world and have risen a little bit maybe in the past 4 decades. Let's maybe focus a little bit on the youth employed, because I will maybe link it with another data. So the youth unemployment was significantly higher than general unemployment in all the region. And as you can see here, we have the data of 35%, 38, and we have maybe some data, recent data, even more than 40%. So, however, it was high in the North Africa. As you can see in the table, in North Africa is reaching, as I said, maybe around 40% compared to some other countries, 9% in Latin American, but also we can some data is 5 in Bahrain and maybe 1 in Qatar, and you can see here the difference. So the causes, the main roots of the highest unemployment lie in some fundamental economic and demographic issues in the MENA economies. So just I would like to give you some indicator before going to the role of the research. How can the research and innovation can boost and can improve the rural development or the rural transformation in general? Next, please. My first point here, and I think this is mainly the first challenge for us in the Mediterranean, but mainly for the MENA region, that we have this linear model of innovation. But this is, as you know, this is a very big problem for the region, because this model is the old model designed to understand the relationship of science and technology that begins with basic research that flows into applied research development and then diffusion. And as you see here in the slide, we have two versions of this linear model. The first one is the technology push. I think it's until the 960, but we have also the market pull. But still this is the linear model, and we have a lot of criticism, I think, not only in the Mediterranean region, but also in USA. These models ignore what's the main important here for these types of models. They ignore the many feedbacks and loops that occur between the different stage of the processes. And I think this is the main shortcomings. And what's important, so we need another model of innovation called the interactive innovation. I think in interactive innovation, building blocks for innovation are expected to come from science or from practice and intermediary, including the farmer, the advisor, NGO, and so on, as actor in the bottom-up process. So this linear model, I think it was criticized because of the problem of the interaction between all the stakeholders. And this is, I think, we need to look for a new paradigm of innovation model. And this one is the interaction, as I said, between research, innovator, and facilitators, as represented in the blue box. However, this linear model can have some potential, some very good results. Next, please. The good results here, I will focus on maybe the region of Southern Mediterranean or North African, and I divide it into two aspects: the scientific production and some very good practices. Next, please. Regarding the good practices, here this is an article I think I wrote with my colleague from Morocco, Sana Zebach, an article, and I think this article has been recently accepted, and it will. We are just finishing to update some data. And as you can see here, although the linear model was criticized over several years, we have some very good results. And here I just put the importance for the fundraising from the H2020. We have a lot of funds that come from since not H2020, but since also FP6, FP7, and H2020. The publication, the scientific production, and as you can see here, I think some countries are well ranked even in the ranking system. Like, for example, Tunisia, and as you can see here, is in blue, the increasing number of publications through the years. But also another point which is very important, I think, the networking between countries. And here, as you can see in this map, that there is a lot of connection and there is a lot of, let us say, networks that can facilitate the exchange of idea, exchange of knowledge, and exchange of also of students. And I think this is a very good point. Although the linear model, we are in this linear model, but we have some advantages in this linear model. Next, please. But also this linear model, and here we have a lot of example of success in spite of this linear model. I don't like to go in the details because we have a lot of successes, like the aid to decision, and we have very good example in the hydrology, in irrigation, on olive tree cultivation, on fisheries, on forestry, or also a lot of technical packages, plant varieties, integrated pest management. We have a lot of let us say good practices, and I think we are in the linear our linear model. But what we realize that the presence of some of a potential impact outside the current model. We have some maybe other outside the current model, like the development of new thematic approach for research innovation by researcher, not relied by the current linear model. And the major limitation of this linear model, this is the what we call it the AKIS model. I will go to this paradigm. This linear model is more oriented to diffuse the knowledge, as I said, from the research to the end user. It's oriented to the diffusion of results before that, than to promote the breakthrough innovation system approach and rural development. Next, please. Yes, now what are the orientation maybe for our Mediterranean region and mainly for the MENA region? The first one is the agriculture and knowledge and innovation system. Let me maybe remind you that originally the concept was defined in agriculture knowledge and information system. So it is, let's say, focused on the knowledge and information. And then after that, the concept is AKS is maybe linked to the process of knowledge generation and includes actors outside research and education. But more recently, we have the AKIS, which is the, as I said, the agriculture, knowledge, and I is here is not information, it's innovation. And in the AKIS concept, it has evolved as it has acquired a second meaning, innovation, and then AKIS was opened up the more public tasks and to support of innovation. Important characteristics of an innovation system are the institutional infrastructure. It's very important. The funding mechanisms, the network characteristics, and the market structure. And this system is, as I said, is characterized by the fact that the innovation is not only on the property of the researcher, but it is co-produced thanks to the interaction between farmers, between firms, between the researcher, intermediate actor like the advisor or the distributor, and also the consumer. But also the co-production of innovation will be, of course, co-ownership. It's the co-ownership of the solution, commonly developed, and is the key on the interaction model. And here, when we say that there is a co-production and co-ownership, and here we can speak about the adoption of the results. And if the farmers adopt the results, then we can improve the rural development. My second point here is the digital agriculture. Next, please. No, this I think is okay. The next, please. The digital agriculture. I think here the point that the digital of agriculture is very important in this period, mainly with the problem of the COVID, and it could contribute to the job creation. But as I mentioned, and Josep mentioned also, the problem for the employment for youth, which is around maybe 30-40% in Southern Mediterranean countries. So the digitalization can maybe help to create the job for the youth. But there is some challenges. First of all, the disparity in access to digital technology and services means there is a risk of digital divide, like for the small farmers and other in rural areas are particularly at risk of being left behind, not only in terms of the literacy, but also and access to the digital resource, but also in terms of productivity and aspect of economic and social integration. So I think the digital skills and the literacy remain a significant constraint to the use of new technology and are particularly lacking in rural areas, especially in developing countries. So if we think to maybe boost the digital agriculture, to in the rural development, to create the job, and maybe to help the young people, the youth in general, maybe you have to take into consideration these challenges mainly for the small farmers, and as I said, the problem for the digital the skills and the literacy. My third point for the orientation is which is the nexus. Next, please. Here, my third point, and I think this is the third orientation, and maybe as you know that the MENA region is characterized by an extreme water, as well as land scarcity, low resource use efficiency despite growing urgency and increasing human insecurities, being the only region of the decreasing food security. Agriculture production could decrease in the future. And I think we have some indicator in the decrease of the production right now. So these trends converge with a rapid translation towards renewable energy as well as non-conventional water. However, another problem is the weak governance and large implementation gaps exist in all the sector, aggravated by a lack of policy coherence, with which, however, it's not, let's say, specific to the Mediterranean region. So this situation, I think, begs to the integration of the management of natural resources and also the integrated governance across the sectors. We have to think about the implementation on the nexus in the Mediterranean region. And on the on Prima, I think we are launching calls, and we are in the second year of launching calls on the nexus, and we are looking to the implementation on the ground for the nexus to improve the productivity and also to improve the rural development. That's what I would like to share with you, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ali. Wonderful presentation, also full of new inspiration. So thank you so much for your perspective. I would like to pass on the word now to Sihem Jebari, and she is our project coordinator of FASTER. So please, Sihem, thank you for being with us today.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. So I would like to share with you today the ongoing internationalization of INRGREF institution. So first slide, maybe, first and second. So I wanted to talk about what is actually research excellence and different, notions related to research. Then tell you about INRGREF and the ongoing process related to this internationalization. Next again. So actually, research is a creative work undertaken to produce knowledge and then to use it, in a common way. And I can tell you that one of the main characteristics of global human endeavor is the relentless pursuit of new knowledge. Currently, we know that the globalization of research require actually world-class research centers and universities that can conduct a very high international quality of research. And this is having a direct and indirect significant impact on global society through translation, innovation, and policy information. We also have research, responsible research and innovation, which is a term used by European Union's framework program. And it is aiming at addressing societal challenges which can be aligned with the values, needs, and expectation of the general public. Next. Actually, research excellence is a notion that is provided by academia, but also by the funders. And we know that research excellence is conducted by academia, research centers, national institutions, and also by industries. It is actually crucial that it develops widely across the global cultures. It is discipline specific. It is based on new observations and interpretations. It's engaged in trying to solve complex problems of our societies. We can, for instance, mention water scarcity, forest fires, pollutions, extreme events, and so on. And these are considered by using specific methodologies and approaches. It is also crucial to use innovative techniques and so on. To be updated and use this knowledge as we said, produced knowledge. Every time we have it available, of course. Actually, world-class centers, they need to decide and to focus their efforts and resources on research performance and profile, being truly distinctive and have the greatest international impact in its research activity. So, for instance, you will find universities or centers focusing on the same challenge, but using different approaches and techniques. So there is no redundant work being done, in different centers. So this is crucial, actually. Next. So actually, the notion of excellence is not the same for policymakers and also for academia. And we are having a challenge of quantifying the research excellence. And this is mainly used for policy purposes. There is currently an extensive debate related to breadth and depth of the meaning of excellence, its capacity to provide quantitative assessments of research activities, and its potential support policy choices. Excellence needs actually research that can be considering a high ethical standards, engage communities, invest policymakers, and ensure gender equality. Next. Promoting research excellence also is somehow challenging. So governments find themselves like facing great talents, new ideas, and so on, with very limited funding. So they shifted to project funding. on a competitive basis while using instruments designed to encourage outstanding research. We mention specifically Research Excellence Initiative. And we have the Research Excellence Framework, which is an impact evaluation that includes economical dimension while assessing the research and education institutions. It was used in 2014 to evaluate the programs that covered the period between 2008 and 2013. And the next iteration will be in 2021. Actually, the main aim is to provide accountability for public investment in research, is to provide a basis for distributing funding, produce robust wide indicators of research excellence for all disciplines, and so on. This is actually showing controversies, like, for instance, arguing that there is too much focus on the impact of research outside of the university and of the research centers. And also this impact has no real relevance on the quality of the research itself. Next. So to be able to manage this assessment, there is key performance indicators. They can be domestic or international, and they are very useful to inform policymakers. So they have different typologies. Mainly, we try to gather them in 5 components. So the research background, for instance, that deals with the yearly average number of total publications, scientific publications. It also displays the collaboration capacity of researchers. Then we have the transference, which is related to the number of organized seminars, the number of participants that attended these events, and so on. Then we have the talent environment, which is related to the mass of researchers, to the gender diversity, to the number of PhD theses defended, and so on. Then we have the competitive funding that allow us to know about the proportion of center budget coming from the international funding, from the private or the public sectors. And finally, we have the leadership, that is related to the number of national and international media appearance, and also the authored reports, the project coordinated, and so on. Next. So now I switch to a concrete example, which is INRCREV. So it was created in 1996. It's embodying the merge of 2 main institutions, one related to forest and the other to rural engineering. They were created during the 60s, and then they were merged in 1996. This institution contributes to the development of the national research policy. It participates to the development of scientific and technological knowledge and its integration into economic and social fields. It trains doctoral students, organize scientific events, and promote partnerships, and nationally and internationally, of course. This is, of course, interesting aspects that could allow the center to think about being a world-class institution. Next. The organization of the center is as follows. So it shows a general director, an administrative council, a scientific board. It has 4 research departments, which are rural engineering, management and valorization of forest resources, then ecology and silvopastoral, valorization of the non-conventional water resources. It has a library, and which is a kind of legacy from the former 2 research institutions, and also there is an access to digital. I mean, there is also a digital library and journals on Scopus, Elsevier, Oxford University, and so on. Other kind of database like Agricola, Agora, and so on are also available for researchers and for students. The institution is also having experimental stations, 9. It produces its own journal called Les Annales de l'INRCREF. It organizes every year an international conference. So these are the main aspects. Next. I will give you examples. These numbers are provided for the period between 2016 and 2019. So the mass of researchers, the permanent researchers are about 73. The senior generation, let's say, is male dominant, like having just 20% of female researchers. But for the junior generation, we can find and see that females are even, I mean, their number is about 50%. And then also we have, so this is in terms of research mass, and then field of work. This is covering all kinds of rural engineering, water and forestry aspects, soil science, bioclimatology, rural economy, agriculture machinery, ecology, irrigation, and so on. So all kind of applied science that focusing on challenges related to the Ministry of Agriculture. Actually, INRCREF is part of the Ministry of Agriculture, Water Resources and Fishery. Its main budget is coming from this ministry, but also we are related to higher education, and we have some funding also coming from, the permanent funding is coming from there also, with an amount that is not exceeding 25%, let's say, from the higher education. So we also supervise PhD students. We are open to other international universities, and we have doctoral students coming from different other countries. We have these 9 experiment stations that are actually located in different bioclimatic contexts with specific topics, and commit actually local and regional stakeholders. We also, I think, INRCREF is also home of a significant number of research leaders. And for instance, the current Minister of Agriculture is a former researcher at INRCREF. As far as the integrity aspect is concerned, we are missing a personal responsibility. So this financial autonomy is missing yet, and I hope that it will be possible to work on that for the next few years. Innovation and entrepreneurship, this is a part that need to be definitely strengthened within the center. Next. The main current projects are addressing the challenge of global change adaptation in Mediterranean river basins. They are also focusing on Tunisian vulnerable populations and deal with challenges related to MENA region. They also, these projects are promoting dialogues and collaboration between science and society while introducing relevant approaches. This is actually allowing a proactive response to emerging climate change and related impacts. So this aspect of climate change is also covered. I wanted also to add few numbers related to the publications in peer-reviewed journals. So for the period of 4 years, we could manage 400 articles, presentations about 150, and then books and chapters about 18. About supervising students, so we have a few hundreds for this 4 years period. Next. So here also a few examples of our current projects. For the last 5 years, let's say, we learned a lot, I think, and we are in a continuous progress while being open to specific approaches and methodologies, and also observations and monitoring, modeling tools. And now we know how to manage the communication and dissemination aspects while dealing with a specific project, how to manage the participatory processes, and how to get the voices of the main stakeholders locally, regionally, and sometimes nationally. Also, we are currently and within the FASTER project settling a living lab, which is a quite new, approach. And we are very excited to deal with it for the next months right now. These are a few examples of partners and also of projects that are shown within these slides. Next. So it is here you can see events organized, and for instance, for the last 4 years we managed about 64 events, gathering stakeholders, organizing courses, but also discussing with them how they can see their own way of dealing with options related, of course, to water or to natural resources in a wide way. And of course, we are trying to introducing them to these new trends and techniques to involve them in the decision-making process. Next. So we know via these tools and techniques how to manage and simulate what can happen within a river basin, for instance. We consider specific uncertainties that are related to climate, to population behavior, to why not revolution, and so on, and see what can be the answer and the response of the environment, and so on. So this is very useful to set strategies, management, and so on. we could, for instance, calibrate the models, helping us to know how much we need to provide as water in every moment and in every context. And I think this is very useful for the managers. Meanwhile, I think it's important to add that this is not really used or adopted by policymakers or also by the different stakeholders. So some efforts needed to be invested in this part. Next. So, I mean, this all these tasks and the way that ENRGREF is being operational and functioning is actually related to the research staff. They benefited from a world-class education. And this is actually was quite crucial in developing research skills, in being independent thinkers, and in also being a problem solver. So this is quite crucial, I would say. They also know about how to create knowledge and have specific expertise in the field. They're also, I mean, more and more, the new trend is that they gather and work in team and engage, improving their ability to communicate effectively. They are also subject to competitive nature of research funding, whether at national or international scale. Next. So I'm about finalizing this presentation, and all what is written in blue, this is already somehow guaranteed, and of course it will be very useful to strengthen the different components. What is in red, it needs to be really focused much more in the future. So looking for funding from high-quality research funding agencies, this is really very important. It can drive the need to be in the track of methodological advances, which ultimately feed into the international quality of research activity. The cross-disciplinary research, this is, we deal with it. We need to publish even more in impact factor journals and open access to ensure the transparency. Gender equality, I would say, in the scientific board, this is very important to be focused. Modernize, I mean, the logistics and the research environment also, while dealing with these new approaches that involve the social community and so on. We feel the needs of having sociologists or, I mean, recruiting humanities become somehow something interesting to manage, or for instance, subcontract a consultant, or ways that allow us to manage these aspects. Next. I think also it will be crucial to reward innovation, and in order to have new products and to get licensed, encourage and support more entrepreneurship and consultancy. So we need to be a bit more open on the next stages of the research process. Gain personal responsibility. This is also very important for managing projects, being independent center, and so on. Being more, devoting more time for education in order to transfer to the young generation and prepare them for the future. So globalization of research require definitely world-class centers, and we hope that at ENRGREF we can join soon the club. Thank you for your attention. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Sihem. This was a wonderful overview. Wow, very interesting. So now we have 15 minutes for receiving questions from the audience. It's a wide audience, but waiting for the chat to produce some questions, I think I might break the ice, no? And ask something. I think you all stress this important relationship between the work of practitioners, which generally are embedded in something we call private sector, no? But I wanted to put on the table, this private sector is highly diversified, no? So I imagine that there is a need for tailored strategies in accordance to the structure of the entrepreneurs, like I don't know how to call the model of entrepreneurship we are dealing with. So I imagine that research needs to be taken up by a different set of private activities. This is a big challenge. And so I would like to open it to the panel. How do you think this information can be boosted into this highly diversified environment of the private sector in the Mediterranean? I see Giuseppe reacting. Maybe would you like to break the ice with me?
Yes, thank you. Well, you made a question which can have multiple answers, and I'm sure that my colleagues will take different approach. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's been very interesting, both for meeting colleagues which I already know very much and for meeting new colleagues. But going into the topic of how to engage with the private sector. First of all, a point that I would like to make is that business, industry, private sector do not necessarily overlap in our region. No, we know that in many countries we also have big public owned by the public sector companies with which we also should somehow try to engage. But talking about industry in general, there are two main venues where I can see research can contribute. The first of all is creating a clear pipeline for entrepreneurship. Often I hear that students, researchers, which have very bright ideas, but they do not necessarily have the managerial skills or awareness how to create a startup, how to create a company. It's not evident if you're a researcher for all your life. At the same time, they are the best position for producing new products, new ideas, new services. So in this way, there should be a more systematic support on how to engage on this sector. There are many ways of doing this. We know that there are projects for creating digital platforms where they can be aware of the opportunities. For instance, I'm thinking about our partner at Startup Europe Med, where they have created this digital platform where all the researchers can go and look for startup competition, funding opportunities, and so on. Then there are more hands-on approaches, which mean that some initiatives train researchers in how to create a startup, how to assess is your idea marketable, how to reach a higher degree in market readiness in technology. On the other side, there is the more traditional path towards employability, which means how to fit the researchers, the students, the best minds into the companies where they can acquire hands-on experience. And in this, of course, the parts of internship seems evident, even though it's not yet developed to the full potential. The Union for the Mediterranean is supporting since many years a project called HOMER, where we try to foster Mediterranean internships between the North and the South, and also South-South. And you will not believe sometimes how much of a cultural barrier we have with some employers in making accept the concept of paid internship. I mean, internships have to give more value. They need to be paid because students, researchers need to sustain themselves while doing it. So we have a variety of many entry points. The issue here is giving them more relevance and integrating them more structurally, which also requires some support by the policymakers.
Sure, thank you. Ali, do you want to add on something? Otherwise, there is a question for you also.
Yes, I think that, yes, for my colleague from the UFM, I think the problem of the startups from the students, something really important. But I have another idea looking to the private sector in the angle of the SMEs. You know, at the SMEs in the Mediterranean is the backbone of the economy in the Mediterranean. So how we can maybe attract the SMEs in our research system? I think one of the most important things that we have to involve the SMEs in the funded projects, because sometimes the national regulation, for example, in Tunisia, the national regulation not allowed to give funds to the private sector and to the SMEs in particular. So it's a problem. But how we can tackle this system, it's a national problem. So then another idea, we can maybe involve the SMEs as our partners in H2020 projects, or also in the future Horizon Europe project. I think it's very important to involve SMEs as a partner, as a key partner in the projects. Maybe the second point is how we can also attract the SMEs in the Mediterranean region. Maybe one of the issues is here to maybe let us say do some contracting between SMEs and the research and innovation institution. So researcher can maybe do some research directly in the enterprise, in the private sector. Then he can, let us say, demonstrate the added value of the research innovation for the SMEs. And in this case, it can be, let's say, the first step to attract the SMEs, because the problem in the Mediterranean, there is, let's say, a huge barrier between the research innovation and the private sector. So I did some analysis in Prima, and I realized that SMEs mainly in northern Mediterranean countries are more involved in the fund of the project rather than the southern Mediterranean countries. So there's a problem for the participation of the south for the SMEs. So I think this the private sector is very important. Another point, I think, how we can the private sector fund the research, because sometimes we said that the private sector can be involved either as a SME or private sector in the consortium, and they can get funds from the commission or from other. But the other thing, if the private sector want to invest in the research and innovation, so the private sector can give funds to the research and innovation. If the private sector maybe participate to give funds to the research and innovation institution, I think this will be, let's say, it will be the private sector will be much more involved in this the system, and I think maybe after that the adoption of the results will be easier. I think that's all for me, because if we would like to speak about the private sector, I think it's a huge subject to be discussed. Thanks.
Thank you, Ali. Sihem, if you want to add on something, maybe on experiences with collaborating with innovative farmers. In FASTER also, we are boosting a direct relationship, trying to build up a direct relationship between researchers and practitioners. Could you maybe trace out some opportunities, like enabling factors that help this process you are developing now, or other barriers like difficulties? Because I know you really invested a lot of efforts in contacting the people who are interested in the agriculture, who are working in the agricultural sector. So maybe you can share the experience of trying to bring a bridge between researchers and the practitioners.
Thank you. Actually, I of course agree on what was already said. And I think it's very important to implement solutions with local and regional farmers, provide these innovative solutions. They need to see it and to experience it. So to have, field schools and to implement solution in their own plots and so on can be really interesting. So and provide them also with more information in different ways, like manuals, like fact sheets, like this is also, I think it's very relevant to keep this, to provide the information and to keep also a continuous contact with the different stakeholders and with the private sector. Also, I think it's crucial to involve them within the funding process, and they need to be part of it, so they can be interested when they will be directly involved. Because now we can see that they can hesitate a bit, and because they don't really have specific means to deal directly with the research and with the researchers and so on. Yeah, I mean, these are a bit.
Thank you, Siam. Very interesting. We only have 2 minutes left, so we have to be a bit strict to our timing. But just to close the debate, I think a very key issue is gender equality. So the whole economic sector is based on an equality of contribution of all of us to the creation of value. It's famous and known that we have to make sure that all contributions from all parts of society are valued and put into value in order to create this rural development. So I would like to ask each of you to put on the table if you know about specific initiatives that could be inspiring in order to improve the opportunities for women, both into building up research and excellence, or into being as an actor in this bridge between research and entrepreneurship, or in the sense of boosting the capacity of small farming environments where women are extremely active and have a high productive role. How to make this, put this more in the light and analyze the importance and the needs of this part of society. Thank you.